Back in October, I decided to take the leap and mod my Nintendo 3DS because I don't know if you heard about it, but modding your 3DS is super easy. And one of my curiosities about my modded 3DS was if I can use Amiibo functionality without owning Amiibo, and thus Amiibo comes into the picture. And thanks to this app, I was able to summon the powers of the baby Metroid Amiibo and finally unlock fusion mode in Metroid Samus Returns, since Nintendo had the brilliant idea to lock content behind pieces of plastic, which is by far the most idiotic thing they've done back in the 3DS and Wii U era. But as I was playing through fusion mode, which kicked my ass constantly, which was a nice change of pace, I had this urge to go back to the original Metroid 2, especially since mastering this game would mean that when I decide to return to the Metroid universe, the next game is Super Metroid, which for the unaware is in my top 5 favorite games of all time, alongside Bloodborne, Mario & Luigi Dream Team, Tomb Raider 3, and my favorite game of all time. So what better excuse to play another Metroid game and master my least replayed Metroid game. Welcome back to a brand new Retro Achievements Mastery video. Today I'm going to be mastering Metroid 2 Return of Samus for the Game Boy by getting all achievements, which can be possible thanks to the Retro Achievements website. And as usual, I'll be getting these achievements in hardcore mode in order to master these games. So this achievement set is very similar to the set for Metroid on NES, where we have achievements for getting every power-up and expansion in the game, beating every boss, and speedrun achievements which unlock different endings depending on how fast you can beat the game. However, unlike Metroid on NES, where we did 2 playthroughs to master the game, for this game, we can master Metroid 2 with just 1 playthrough. That said, because this game is less maze-like than Metroid and more linear, this video will be a more general progression and I'm going to document my mastery journey while mentioning the achievements I get along the way. But as usual, if you want to check my full mastery playthroughs, you can always check my archives channel after watching these videos so you can actually see how the process was made in the long run. So, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for more Retro Achievement content and let's dive into SR388 and master Metroid 2 Return of Samus. After the events of the first game, the Galactic Federation sends a research team to SR388, the homeworld of the Metroids, in order to evaluate their possible threat after Mother Brain tried to use them in her galactic conquest. However, after the team got dispatched to the planet, they lost communication with the team, but they were able to send some data that describes the destructive power of the Metroids and how their presence shows a threat to the galactic peace. So the Galactic Federation contracts Samus once again with a clear mission: fly to SR388 and exterminate every Metroid in the planet, so that these creatures can't be used as weapons for galactic dominion. And so we arrive at SR388 with a clear mission in hand: to exterminate all 39 Metroids, making the planet their humble abode. And unlike Metroid 1, we now have a linear adventure as we go deeper into the core of the planet, since we do have literal walls that will prevent us from going deeper until we clear out every Metroid before moving on. And we can see this as soon as we start the game, because as soon as we get inside the cavern system, we will see our first Metroid. But yeah, as you can see here, we got a Metroid. However, oh my god, it evolved! Like a Pokemon. So in a very interesting twist from the first game, we can see that now Metroids can evolve into more dangerous forms that even grow up from their weakness to the Ice Beam. But in a sick twist of nature, they are now ultra vulnerable to missiles, which this game gives you 30 to start with compared to every other game's 0. And here we have the first evolution, the Alpha Metroid. And these are going to be your basic strong enemies for the early game. But thankfully, with the power of missiles and stun locking, we can combo our first Alpha into oblivion and get our first achievement for defeating our very first Alpha Metroid. And once we defeat the Metroid, we will see that the world is going to start shaking, which means that a new area has opened up and we can go deeper into the caverns of SR388. If we include the surface portion, SR388 is divided into 10 different areas, each area having Metroids, expansions, and power-ups for Samus to grab. And as you make your way to the next area, you will come across bodies of lava which will deal damage as you dip your toes into it. And this lava is tied to the Metroid presence in each area, as you will lower once you defeat every Metroid in the area you're exploring. How and why does it do that?
That's a good question.
So to make this video more orderly, I will go through every area mentioning the amount of Metroids, expansions, and power-ups we can gather in each area, as well as give tips and tricks about Metroid arenas and specific expansions. So starting off, we have 3 big areas, which are areas that contain power-ups and expansions alongside Metroids. And for our first area, we have the Golden Temple, so to speak. For our first room, we have this big shaft where we can go up or down. We want to go up since we need a special power-up to proceed through the downward path, and as we continue going right, we will enter the titular temple, where we can find a save station, which is a new feature added to the series here in the West. Nevertheless, we go down and encounter our first missile door, which, just like Metroid, takes 5 missiles to open. And inside the room, we encounter our first Chozo statue of the series, as well as our first power-up, the Morph Ball Bombs, which will give us our first power-up related achievement. Once we grab bombs, we can bomb the floor between the door and the statue to enter a secret and collect our first missile tank, which in this game, instead of getting 5 extra missiles, we now get 10, which I do like since missiles are more important here than in Metroid 1, now that Metroids can only be killed by missiles, especially considering that later in the game, Metroids will take more missiles to kill. Once we go back to the shaft, we want to go to the right, because now we can break a secret block that will allow us to get our first energy tank, which just like in Metroid 1, will give us additional health as well as a refill. And, similar to Metroid 1, once we get our first energy tank, we will get another achievement. To the right of the E-tank, we have another shaft, and for this one, we want to head to the bottom, since we have another missile door that will give us our first beam upgrade, the Ice Beam, which is way better than the one in Metroid 1, since frozen enemies will not unfreeze after being shot, which is a quirk that I forgot to mention in the first game that I really do not like. And, because it's a new beam, we do get an achievement for upgrading our beam. Once we collect our new beam, we head up the shaft and enter the first room on the right, where we can find a whopping 3 missile tanks. I'm getting some deja vu right now. And once we collect our first one, we will get explosions for reaching a missile capacity of 50. And once we collect all tanks, including one where I unintentionally pulled a feat from Metroid 1, okay, that works. We just damage boost into it. Oh man, that's actually pretty funny. We continue up the shaft and head outside through the second opening to the right. Once outside, we want to head to the right and fall down this shaft. Now, it might seem that you're stuck and can't go back since bomb jumping is as impossible as trying to do it on Metroid Fusion, but at the bottom, we have a brand new power-up to the Metroid series that, surprisingly, has only returned in the Prime trilogy, and that is the Spider Ball, which allows Samus to climb up walls while in Morph Ball form, and by claiming this new power, we will get another achievement. So with the Spider Ball, we can go up the shaft by pressing down while in Morph Ball to activate it, and press a single direction to continuously move until you let go of the D-pad. And once we head out, we go near this Metroid carcass, which signifies that a Metroid is nearby. So we Spider Ball up the wall and enter a side room and fight our first alpha of Area 1. Once we defeat him, we are practically done with this area, since now that we have bombs and the Spider Ball, we can go down through the initial shaft and kill the remaining alphas in this area. But before we move on, we re-enter the temple and go up the shaft with the Spider Ball and collect 2 missile tanks and the last missile tanks of Area 1, putting our missile total to 90. Back in the starting shaft, we head down and go into this grassy tunnels filled with bad weed that deals damage, as well as the remaining 3 Metroids, all of them being alphas. Now, if you're struggling with health, there is a health station that you can use to heal up before fighting the alphas. But because I was fine with health, and also incredibly stubborn, I went ahead and killed the alphas. And once I killed the last one, we can feel the ground shake, which means that we defeated every Metroid in the area, and now the planet is giving us access to the next Metroid-infested area. And every time you see the screen shake, it means that the lava has now lowered in the cavern section of the planet. So now we backtrack to where the lava was, and we can proceed to the next area. As we approach Area 2, we have an alpha guarding the entrance. Once he dies, we have this large structure where we go inside to save our game. After saving the game, I decide to go back outside and climb the wall on the right to collect a missile tank. Once I get the missile tank, I decide to go back inside and go to the other side of the structure while almost dying to a stupid turret that combos me to death. And with 5 HP, we explore the rest of this area, getting more missile tanks, including this stupid tank that requires you to bomb these blocks, and hope that the bomb blast doesn't disable your spider ball, causing you to fall off and reset the block. But after we collect it, we now have a scary fight with an alpha. And it's scary because I'm almost dead. But thankfully, we defeat the alpha no problem and have access to a health station, and now I feel like getting a new ability. So we head to the top of the structure and head down the opening, and after cracking this missile door, we get a Chozo statue, but with a twist. The item itself is a monster! This is Arachnus, the only non-Metroid boss fight in this game. And this fight sucks. Oh my god, I'm so dead. Yep. So yeah, that's Arachnus, and yeah, he sucks. After loading back in, I decided to save Arachnus for later since that fight is just dumb, and I also wanted to get more E-tanks and a defense upgrade. So after redoing the missile collecting and alpha killing, I go down a floor below and bomb my way inside the temple. And after finding a surprise alpha, we head down this hatch and go down into this room after blasting these blocks for our next power-up, the returning high jump. And once we get some new boots, we collect more missile tanks, including an E-tank that I forgot in the high jump room. And as we collect these missile tanks, we will get more explosions for reaching a missile capacity of 150. Once we're done, before we spiderball our way up the shaft, we bomb the left wall to get access to our next beam upgrade, the Wave Beam, which unfortunately, similar to Metroid 1, will take away our freezing abilities since beams do not stack in this game yet. And it's even more unfortunate in this game because in Metroid 2, the Ice Beam is actually mandatory to finish the game. But that's okay, because just like in Metroid 1, we can get another Ice Beam before the required section. And once we upgrade our beam for the second time, we go up the shaft and go back into the water and continue through this flooded area where we have another alpha. And at the end of this hall, we can spiderball up another shaft and enter a Chozo room that doesn't have an item for us. But as we explore, we see that there is an opening underneath and we can bomb these balls, and we will get access to the Various suit, which not only gives us more defense, but also gives Samus her iconic shoulder balls. And yes, I said shoulder balls because they look like balls. I don't care. So now that we have more health and more defense, I decided to go back to the top and confront Arachnus. So the way Arachnus works, he will shoot fireballs constantly and will ball up and jump around every time you fire your weapon, which involves just pressing the B button. And the only way to damage Arachnus is by using bombs. So what you have to do is go into Morph Ball, lay a single bomb to lower Arachnus' jump, and when he jumps, predict where he will land and place bombs in that area. And by repeating this process, he is honestly not that bad, even though it took me a while to understand his pattern. Okay, so I did understand how he attacked. So once we defeat Arachnus, he will drop the Spring Ball, which will allow you to jump while in Morph Ball, which will make the Spider Ball usage a bit more useful in some regard. But with the Spring Ball acquired, we are now done with the temple area. So now we head to the left and enter a cave system that has some damaging weed, and in these halls we will find another alpha. Oh my god, it evolved, and it's all sparky. So here we have the second Metroid evolution, the Gamma Metroid, who behave very similar to Alphas with the addition that they can now shoot an electric beam that has a very questionable hitbox, but it also blocks missiles. But if you can handle fighting Alphas, Gammas are also not that hard, although their hitbox is a bit more finicky. And we can combo them to get our next achievement by killing our first Gamma Metroid. And once he dies, we have 2 more Alphas and 1 more Gamma that almost made me regret mastering this game. I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of you. Oh my god, 2 HP. Wow. Area 3 is the biggest area in the game, featuring the highest Metroid count as well as a lot, and I mean a lot, of vertical shafts. Starting off, we want to head up to the top of the first shaft and go into another outside temple area. And here, if we go down, we can find our very first missile station. And after we restock on firepower, we climb this wall and drop down on the other side. And as we make our way through these blocks, at the very top we will find our next new ability, the space jump, which allows you to infinitely jump and reach new heights, assuming the damn thing doesn't bug out, because this is probably one of the most unreliable space jumps in the entirety of the 2D series. And here I thought that the Super Metroid one was unreliable. However, if you manage to master the space jump, we can head to the right and go down into this hole and access another temple where we can fight a Gamma in this very interesting room, which you do want to remember, by the way. And once he dies, we break our next missile door and get our first new beam upgrade, the Spacer Beam, which will allow you to shoot low enemies without crouching, which for Metroid 1, this would be absolutely broken. And once we upgrade, we head outside to fight a lone Gamma, and here we take a detour to go into the second part of Area 3, the Gamma Vegetation Area, where we have these spiky vegetations, so many vertical shafts, and a shitload of Gamma Metroids, with an alpha in between. Thankfully, this area is not as pitch black like a certain Metroid 2 remake I know, and at least in this area, Gammas don't run away like little bitches, unlike another Metroid 2 remake that I know of. But once you manage to kill all 6 Gammas and the Alpha, we backtrack all the way to the room where we killed our first Gamma in Area 3 and shoot the ground to access a new area where the last upgrades and Metroids are found, including our final new beam upgrade, the Plasma Beam, which is the most powerful beam in the game, with the negative that is just a line similar to the Ice and Default Beam. But it's the beam we're going to be using for the remainder of the game until we have to change to the Ice Beam. But once we reach full beam power, we defeat the remaining Metroids and collect the remaining missile and energy tanks so we can finish off with Area 3, and honestly my least favorite area in the game. So once we're done with Area 3, as we backtrack, we'll see that the lava is still present after going back to the caverns. And that is because for this next part of the game, we actually have to do some back and forward between this spot and the place we actually need to go, which is back where we saw another lava pool after finishing Area 2. Once we go down, we go through this linear tunnel only for us to encounter a single Gamma, which we already know how to deal with easily. And after he dies, that's literally the end of Area 4, because yeah, with Area 3 done, now we're going to do a couple of small areas that only have Metroids and no power-ups. So once the Gamma is dead, now we want to go to the lava right outside Area 3, because now we can go down through there. And here we have another small area where we have a fork in the road, with an Alpha and a health station to the left, and a Gamma and a missile station to the right. Now because I was good on health, I decided to go for the Gamma first and then the Alpha, since for me, health is more valuable than missiles, mainly due to the damage output that these Metroids can deal, not to mention that Samus's invincibility frames are as non-existent as Alucard's from Symphony of the Night. And once we defeat the second Metroid, we now have to backtrack all the way back to Area 4 and go down through the shaft where the lava was located and access our next and final big area. I really hope you've mastered the space jump by now, because here we have the tower, the most vertical area of the game, filled with spikes that prevent the cheese of using Spider Ball, as well as a room that contains every beam in the game. So if you want to change to a different beam, or you missed a beam and want to go for the achievements, you can head inside the tower through here and get your weapon of choice. Starting off at the bottom, we head to the left from the save station, and we head down into this hall to the left. And once we reach the end, the Metroids evolve once again, this time to their most dangerous form, the Zeta Metroids. Zetas are the point where the game gets hard, mainly because of their aggressiveness towards Samus. Just like Gammas, Zetas charge at you and shoot a fireball. However, unlike Gammas, in order to damage Zetas, you need to shoot directly at them. And because they don't stop moving, trying to kill just one of them without receiving a lot of punishment can and will be obnoxious. So my recommendation against Zetas is to try to have them on equal ground as Samus and just spam missiles until they drop dead, which for this first one is not very easy. However, this is also the most consistent strategy that I was able to perfect while playing this game again. But you may have noticed that once I killed the Zeta, I did not get an achievement for killing it. since, you know, that was my first Zeta I killed. But let's ignore that, since I will figure out eventually a huge mistake I made. So since we're at this point on the map, I decided that for this area, I'm going to do a U-turn around the tower while killing all Metroids and collecting all remaining power-ups. But once we kill this Gamma and have to deal with this tedious bombing again, that's when I realized something after grabbing the missile tank. Alright. Wait a minute. Give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. So a lot of you may be wondering what happened. Why did I decide to reload the game, and why didn't get an achievement after killing the first Zeta? Well, once I reached the save station inside the tower, I had to end the recording because I had to do an errand. But the next day, I completely forgot to log out of my personal account, since after finishing my errand, I wanted to continue on my mastery of Resident Evil for the Sega Saturn, since it was very late and my brothers were sleeping. And yeah, I did not realize I was still logged in until I got this missile tank, which didn't give me a counter for how many missiles I was getting near. So yeah, that sucked, but at the very least, I didn't kill all Zetas or saved after getting all missiles or energy, because if that were the case, I would have to do another playthrough just for that achievement, which would suck. But once I reloaded, I killed the Gamma again and went for the missile tank as well as the energy tank, which is the final energy tank we need in order to reach max health. And yes, I said the last one we need, because just like Metroid 1, there are more E-tanks than necessary if you're going for max health. But as we get the E-tank, we get tanks for the health. So as we drop down, we defeat another Gamma and head into this dark room. And this room is just dumb, because you need to guess where the block and openings you need to head into in order to collect a missile tank and the optional E-tank for me. But once we collect them, we try to get inside the tower by bombing this rock, and here we can face our second Zeta Metroid. And this fight will show you the best way to deal with these annoying bastards. Yeah, like that. Yeah, that's honestly the best way to actually deal with Zetas, and that's the fact that you want to get them like on your level so that you can actually shoot them with missiles. You can actually just combo it with missiles. And there it is, Bipedal Monster. So yeah, we didn't get the achievement last time. Oh my god. That was scary, I'm not gonna lie. Once the Zeta dies, we want to head to the top of the room to access our final power-up of the game, the classic returning Screw Attack, which will give us our final power-up related achievement. So once we head outside, we go to the left and collect our final missile tank, which will put us at 250 missiles, as well as preparing us for the 4th of July. And in this part of the level, we also have the last 2 Metroids, those being the last Gamma and the 3rd and final Zeta Metroids of the game. I will say, because of the large area, the first Zeta was definitely the hardest one. What? Oh, I was gonna say, did I just get soft locked? Okay, that was interesting. Now, before moving on to the final area, I highly recommend you stock up on health and ammunition, since these 2 stations will be the last ones you will encounter until you reach the final area of the game. Once we finish the tower, we continue all the way to the lowest point of the planet. And once we make it to the top of this room, we want to go to the left, where at the end we will encounter an alpha. Here this deep? Well, that's okay. As long as we deal with him quickly and we continue our quest, nothing will... Why is there lava now? Okay, maybe there is something else we can do if we go through the right path. Maybe we have a Gamma or another Alpha we can... Oh my god, the Zetas are evolving. So yes, here we have the introduction of the Metroid's final evolution, the Omega Metroid. And these guys behave somewhat similar to Zetas. However, compared to the Zeta Metroids, Omegas are so much easier to defeat, and that's mainly due to the size of the rooms where you fight the Omegas, and the aggressiveness of the Omega is not as high as Zetas. That said, Omegas take a stupid amount of missiles to kill. However, there is a catch. If you shoot Omegas from behind, you will deal massive damage to them, which means that you won't waste more missiles than necessary. And this is very important because for this and the next area, we will not be able to restock on health and ammunition, unless you decide to backtrack all the way back to the tower. So because I didn't didn't want to waste precious time, I played it incredibly safe with the Omegas, which I will explain a great strategy against them when we get to the next area. And once we kill him, we get our achievement for killing our very first Omega Metroid. So once the Omega is dead, the lava will lower and we can move on to the last Metroid-infested area, the Metroid Hive, where the last 3 Metroids we need to fight are nothing but Omega Metroids. We also have 2 save stations, but the real challenge is trying to kill 3 behemoths without losing your health and missiles. So the best strategy to fight Omegas is wait for them to charge at Samus, and then you want to jump to push them back with the screw attack. And once they stop moving, try to get behind them and shoot them in the back. It should be noted that this is the hitbox you want to shoot, because if you try to shoot below that point, the missile is going to go right through the legs. Oh, I missed? And once you get behind them, I personally can usually hit the Omegas 2 to 3 times before they turn around. But as long as you keep moving and try to not get comboed by the Omegas, you will kill them no problem and have only 1 Metroid remaining, which is located at the final area of SR388. Before entering this area, if you didn't kill the Omegas in the last area, there will be a barrier in this spot on the map that will prevent you from finishing the game, which forces you to kill the 3 Omegas in Area 8. So once we climb the final cavern, we now have a silent, isolated stroll through some flooded caverns. And I actually really love this detail on world building, since as you go deeper into the planet, there is less life form, meaning that the Metroid presence has essentially eradicated all life. And I love that. I actually really love that storytelling. But as we make our way through some flooded caverns, we make our way up to our final objective and kill the last Metroid. Here we also have the final save station of the game. And once we head into the next room, we have this pool we need to get out from, which a couple of well-timed space jumps will get you out of. And once out of the water, we have this huge room that has 3 openings at the top, each one containing very important items, plus the way to continue on with the game. The room to the right will have an energy and missile station so we can be fully stacked for the end, and the room on the center has an ice beam. And this ice beam is very important since, like I said, it is mandatory because it will allow you to kill special enemies ahead. But once we recharge and change our beam, we head back down to save our game one last time, and we head up the left shaft and arrive at the genetics lab. Oh, what was that? It's an egg. However, uh-oh. Only for the Metroid counter to go crazy and spawn 8 more Metroids. And as we go into the next room, we get to encounter our old friends, the original Metroids, where you need to destroy them the same way as Metroid 1. Freeze them and then blast them with 5 missiles. Although you do want to be careful because compared to the NES Metroids, these ones are more relentless and can be a little bit too attached to Samus. Use 5 missiles. Oh my god, what the hell is that? What the hell was that? Let go! Let go! Bro, let go, you dumbass. No, fuck this. Dude, when I bomb you, you're supposed to let go, you dipshit. But once we defeat the last Metroid, we put the Metroid counter back to 1 and head down this hallway and confront the last Metroid, the Metroid Queen. Oh my god. Okay, bye. Now, instead of fighting the Queen, we chicken out and go down this hall to drop into the room with the ice beam, where we can head to the right and restock on health and ammo. Mainly health after the Metroids got too comfortable with my armor. But once we restock, we go back to the hall and confront the Queen in a one-on-one fight. The Queen has only 2 attacks. She will vomit these projectiles that you can destroy easily with the screw attack, and she will charge at you trying to bite your face off. And the strategy for the Queen is to shoot her while she charges, so that she gets stunned by missiles, giving you a chance to deal massive explosive damage as she gets stunned. Another thing you can do is stun her with a missile and then morph into her mouth so that she eats you, only for you to bomb her stomach for massive damage. If only I played this game before Other M, it would have saved me so many headaches during my first playthrough. Just like Mother Brain, you just need to shoot her until she dies. And because you need missiles to deal damage, if you somehow run out of them, you can always head down this hole and restock, with the detriment that you will reset her HP. But with enough missiles in her face and bombs in her belly, we will eventually defeat the Metroid Queen, get our next achievement, and destroy the last Metroid of SR388. And once we head through her lair, we encounter the same egg we saw before getting attacked by Metroids, only for the egg to hatch and spawning a baby Metroid, which help us destroy these crystals, which will give us access to the surface of the planet so that we can escape after finally completing our objective.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
So to save time for this review, I'll give the quality, difficulty, and fun the same stats as I gave the set for Metroid on NES, those being a 6, a 7, and an 8 respectively. The reason as to why I'm giving quality a 6 is because if we take the sets for both games, they are practically the same in terms of number of achievements, which is honestly really funny. Both sets have achievements tied to getting all power-ups, expansions, endings, and combat related. The only exception is that Metroid 2 doesn't have achievements for discovering a new area. Now that being said, unlike Metroid 1 where we have some miscellaneous achievements in the GBA and GameCube sets, I don't see how you can add miscellaneous achievements for this game in particular, since the progression is very linear. In fact, I would even say it's the most linear game of the entire Metroid series. And when it comes to sequence breaking this game, I honestly have nothing that doesn't involve glitches or game-breaking bugs. We maybe could have something like Arachne's Damageless, but on second thought, please do not do that. And because the game is more linear, getting the best ending plus 100% game completion is also very easy to do. That said, because you can master this game in one playthrough, I'm still giving this game a 7 in difficulty, and that's mainly because Arachnes, Zetas, and even Omegas can be very punishing, especially Zetas with their constant moving, and Arachnes for being a surprise boss with a very tiny arena and weird ways to damage it. But another reason as to why I'm giving it a 7 is because this game is another guide game. Not as bad as Metroid 1, but if you're aiming for a sub 3 hour 100% playthrough, with the big areas like Area 3 and even Area 2, it is very easy to get lost and don't know where to go and what Metroids are and upgrades you are missing. But despite all of these complaints, I still had fun with this game, to the point that I can give it an 8 in terms of fun. And the reason it's not higher is because the set was very basic and some parts of the game can be very annoying, like the lack of health and ammo stations, Zetas being annoying, and the unreliable space jump, just to name a few. But once I got past those critiques and focused on the Omega fights, it did enjoy my stay in SR388, and I can see myself play this game more often, even though we have 2 incredible remakes of this game, making this game even more obsolete than the first game. And as for the hardest achievement, because of all the things I mentioned when reviewing the difficulty, just like Metroid 1, I will once again give it to the fastest speedrun achievement, that being Speedy SR388, for beating the game in less than 3 hours. If you were to ask me right here, right now, what is my least favorite 2D Metroid game? My answer will be Metroid 2. Music-wise, it's not as memorable with the exception of Surface of SR388, and issues I mentioned regarding Space Jump and Zetas and the lack of recharge stations, not to mention that AM2R and Samus Returns exists, I would not call this my least favorite, but my least replayed game. I have this philosophy that there is no bad Metroid games. bad mainline Metroid games. That said, I do want to play this game more, but because of this game's shortcomings, I would have to be incredibly bored if I'm revisiting these games. But just like Metroid 1, this is still a solid entry in the series, and I do recommend you play this game if you're a Metroid fan and never played the original first 2 games. Big thanks to Dude1286 and Scott, who by the way is actually the creator of the RetroAchievements website, for making this set. And now that Metroid 2 is mastered, next time we meet in the Metroid series, we head over to Super Metroid, which is in my top 5 favorite games of all time. However, considering that I've done 2 Metroid games almost back to back, I think I'm going to take a break from Metroid since I don't want to do 3 Metroid videos in 1 year. Well, I guess I'm mastering 3 Metroid games in just a year. Thanks for watching this new RetroAchievements Mastery video. If you enjoyed this mastery, don't forget to leave a like, and if you want to keep in touch with my latest masteries, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified. For our next mastery, we are diving into the PlayStation 2 with my platforming mascot franchise, Sly Cooper. And we're going to be mastering the first game, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. And then after that, we are mastering a forgotten game on the PlayStation 1, which was developed by Polyphony, which is going to be their only non-racing game, since Polyphony is the studio behind the Gran Turismo series. So that will be exciting if you know the game. And once that game is mastered, we are celebrating Metroid Prime 4's release with Metroid Prime for the GameCube, which unfortunately won't be ready by the time Prime 4 releases. I was originally going to skip games to focus on Prime, but as I mentioned in a community post, I will not have tight schedules and make videos for the sake of making videos. I put everything into these RetroAchievement videos, and I want to give justice to not just the games I master, but also the achievement sets themselves, since this website has impacted my life forever, and I want to make it justice. But with that yapping out of the way, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check my archive channel for the full playthrough of every single mastery I do. My name is Jonathan Wolf, and I will see you all in my next Retro Achievement Mastery. Later, Retro Achievers, and take it easy.